Whew. Hear the air just kind of escaping out of there. Oh boy, we got this turned around. It happens sometimes. That's okay, we'll just turn it this way. Boom. Now let's turn the right way. Okay, let's make some... Matter of fact, let's turn the light up just ever so slightly. There, that's a little bit better. I think we're gonna go with the same colors that we did last time, guys. Ooh. My goodness, I got some paint on the tube here, that's right. Well, we just started. There's already paint on my hands. That's gotta be some kind of record. I don't know. If it ain't, maybe it will be. I think I'm going to add some ultramarine this time to what we're doing. Just because, I don't know, it's hard to get by without ultramarine, guys. I don't really use a purple color. I always make my purple color from ultramarine and alizarin crimson, typically. Or sometimes I guess I use Prussian blue and alizarin crimson, but you can always bet there's a little alizarin crimson hanging around. Alizarin crimson is never too far away, no matter what I do. Let's make sure we add some Prussian blue. You and I both know right now that there's going to be some Prussian blue today. Prussian blue. We are never getting out of a paint session without a little bit of Prussian blue. You know, realizing that maybe the thing to do yesterday, and I don't know why I didn't do this. I probably should have added some cadmium yellow deep to my sap green to make that ochre color that we've been messing around with a lot. Because that color's been pretty useful in some of the shades that we've been applying, and I think we're going to bring that back today. I tried doing things a little bit differently yesterday, but you know, sometimes it's... you gotta ask yourself, well, why mess with success? Why screw around with things, right? Yeah, why indeed. Okay, I think we're just about ready here. Feels like we're just about ready. Gonna have to scrape some of this dry paint off the palette eventually. Got a little too much of it hanging around. First things first, I think I'm just gonna add a little bit of gray to what I've done over here. This is the mud mix that I'm adding in right now. It's a little bit darker than I think it probably should be, but I think that ultimately this is going to be a nicer color to go along with the yellows that we made, I think. It'll provide a little bit more of a... will provide a little bit more interest than what we've done. I think that things were a little too blue just now, and I just wasn't a big fan of it. This, I don't know, this feels nicer. This feels like it has more of a continuity with the colors that we're doing. Yeah, I just like it better in general. Okay. There. Wasn't really planning on redoing some of that, but it'll do. Okay, that's fine. Let's focus on business at hand, I guess. We're gonna do exactly what we said we were gonna do. And we're gonna take that sap green with a little bit of cadmium yellow deep. And we're gonna get to work trying to mix ourselves up a little ochre-ish color. Let's see, do we have that ochre-ish color? It's pretty much there. That's a little bit of a olivey ochre-ish color that we got in our hands right now, and this is actually pretty good stuff. Might even try putting a little bit of this in some of the shadows over here again. Oh, I know. Do doing things I probably shouldn't be doing. I don't know. Sometimes I just can't help myself. Sometimes you know you got a good color on your hands and you just gotta roll with it. Alright, we're gonna take mostly white. Add a lot of mostly white, just a small pinch of that ochre color. Just a small pinch, and we'll add bits and pieces as we go. And that should be pretty good approximation of what we've been doing so far. Yeah, it's a pretty solid approximation, I'd say. Maybe we'll just add a little bit of white. Just a touch more white. If push comes to shove, we can always add. Well, we can always add a little something, but kind of like where we're at right now. And that's a much easier way of getting to that color than trying to add a bunch of Prussian blue and, oh god, red and, I don't know, red and yellow to the mix and all that. It's just easier to do it this way, if we're being totally honest with ourselves. Okay. Maybe, well, I don't know. Having a middle tone isn't necessarily a bad thing. It is a little bit yellow right now. It's okay though. We can kind of use that in different spots. Like right about here, right about in there. There's going to be some different things happening. Like right about at this line right here. Let's see if we can maybe scrape some of this off the brush, because we do have quite a bit on the brush right now. Sometimes there's gobs of paint that you get on your brush and you gotta give it a little bit of encouragement to get it off. Okay, right about there. Let's start drawing some of the stuff, because we need to outline and get rid of some of this, because part of this just doesn't belong. The couch, the top of the couch, is going to be over here. The wall's going to start over here, and the cat is going to be extended slightly this way. Not too much, but just a little bit. Alright. Okay. Now let's add some white to that again. Maybe we can get ourselves the color that we're looking for. Yeah, it's always a struggle. A fine line between finding just the right color and not even in the ballpark. Okay. Let's try that again. There. Now we're cooking. See, look at that. That is a very handsome color. In fact, let me see if I can. Yeah, that's going to look nice too. Alright. God, I forgot how good it feels to. Forgot how good it feels just to have the color scheme all figured out without having too much, and it really takes the load off when you know just about what color you want to put in, when you know what colors you have to throw in, when you know what colors need to be there. It's a relief. There's almost no stress. You just know what you have to do, and the only thing left is to do it. We're kind of running out of paint here. You know, once upon a time I used a lot more medium on stuff, and I don't use as much medium as I used to, which probably, I don't know. Sometimes I think about mixing up the old medium that I used to use. I used to use a medium that had a lot of turpentine in it. It's mostly turpentine, but it also had some stand oil, a little Damar varnish. I actually don't know how you pronounce that, so I'm probably butchering the way you pronounce it, but it had Damar varnish. It was mostly turpentine and stand oil, but it had some Damar varnish in it too, and then a few drops of cobalt dryer, and that was a pretty good medium for a good long while. I'm thinking of going back to that, because the paintings that I did with it had some pretty good results in hindsight, and it really extended the life of the paint too. And for a while I was trying some other mediums that this company I was working with was giving me access to, and they weren't bad. It just, I don't know if I would say it was exactly the same. But, you know, when you try things from other places, of course it's not going to be the same. Nothing's ever going to be the same. But you try things, you see what works, you see what doesn't, and, you know, sometimes you make the best of it. If it doesn't work, move on with your life. This company doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. No, it doesn't exist anymore. Well, it kind of does, but got bought out a little while ago, so it's not the same. Not in the same company, unfortunately. All right, what I'm doing now is just using the same color. Excuse me. I throw as a little tickle in it today. Same color, a little darker. Got some folds that are just kind of making appearances, guys. Okay. Let's throw these in right here. This ochreish shade. Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful color, guys. Yeah, that's a nice color. And maybe we'll throw this light one in on the side here. Okay. I think I want to start using a little bit of the I want to use a little bit of my mud mix for a shadow. Okay, let's see how that looks. That doesn't look too bad, honestly. I don't know. The mud mix already has a gray cast to it that's inherently violet because of the colors that we use. So that makes it inherently useful. So here's about what we're going to get out of it. I need to be a little bit careful here. And I might even want to wait for the canvas to dry before we go at it again, but we can still outline things. We can still get a sense of where we need to go. That's really what it's all about, just kind of getting a sense of where we need to go. But also, hopefully, along the way, we can also get the color pretty much where we want it to be. The fewer redos that we have to do, the fewer repaints that we have to do along the way, honestly, the better. Yeah, this is going to be a much stronger color, I think. Just mixing a little bit of the ochre tones in with the violet-ish colors is going to make this painting look real good. Let's see here. There's going to be like a little fold right here, I think. Just a little gray fold going out this way. not that way. Little folds just kind of just appear. Yeah. And the cat's form is going to be up there. You can see her little body. Cat's in the other room. She's kind of just relaxing right now. Let's take a little bit of that, a little bit more of that mud mix. I think I'm going to just grab a little ultramarine here on this. See what that looks like when we mix it in. I don't know. Ultramarine feels like the right color here. Ultramarine and probably a little red, maybe some yellow. I don't know. Really basic stuff. God, that red is so strong. Sometimes you forget how weak ultramarine is, guys. Let me get a little bit more of that mud mix in there. Wish I had a camera that was kind of just aiming down at the mud mix right now to show you guys just, I guess, just how biffed the mix is that I'm cobbling together here. Like, it's not the worst thing I've ever done, but boy, we overshot it a little bit, which means we're just gonna have to probably take some of it and bring it off to the side while we bring more ultramarine in. Alright. I think we're getting pretty close to the color we're looking for here. Yeah, this is getting pretty close. Alright. Maybe let's wipe off the brush a little bit here so we don't get too much of the stuff that we've been doing. Now let's take this and just go there. You see that? That is that kind of dull color that I was looking for. It's just going to go right across this way and stop right there. Well, we could bring it over, I guess. It's going to stop right about there, I'd say. Something like that. Actually, can everyone see that on camera? Yes, they can. Okay, I wasn't sure. Every so often I gotta look at the camera to make sure that everyone can actually see what's happening. Because sometimes I get a little overzealous and I start painting a little too soon. Okay. Maybe, I don't know, we'll add a little bit of white there. Because I think the couch is going to get a little bit lighter on the side there. Here. Maybe, I don't know, just a little something over that way. There, that's not too shabby. Nah, that's kind of nice actually. At least now we got some semblance of where everything's coming from. Now we just need to whip up a nice background. Actually, I think I know what color I'm going to use for the background. It's probably going to be exactly what we've been using with maybe Well, maybe we'll take a little sap green. Oh boy, sap green. God, guys, I gotta tell you, we're going crazy with sap green. There's too much sap green going around. Everyone's gonna watch this and think that I'm crazy for sap green, and not gonna lie, I am. Like, you hear artists talk about sap green all the time, but as soon as you start using sap green and everything, you start to understand why they talk about it all the time, because it's just a color. It's just a color that works wonders. There is nothing else like it. It's a very versatile color. It completely changes everything that you do. Just recently I was pleasantly surprised to see that the color I use was more available than I thought it would be. And what I mean by that is that there's this color that, watercolor that I like. This is just a day in the life type of discussion I'm having with you guys right now. There's a color I like that was discontinued a little while ago, unfortunately. So, what that means is, well, I'm a little bit SOL, but I found someone selling the color on eBay. So I was pretty happy to find that. And the color that I'm talking about is Aureolin. Winsor Newton. I actually have been a little bit out of the loop with artist supplies for longer than I care to admit, so by the time I realized that Aureolin wasn't really being made anymore, it was a little too late. All the suppliers had sold out of it years ago, actually. I was a little bit embarrassed by that because, God, I used to be so in the loop regarding that. And now I felt like, oh my God, I didn't know how to feel. Felt like I had egg on my face, I guess. That's about the short of it right there. I felt a little bit foolish that I didn't know that this color that I've been using for a while now had been discontinued. And you know, it's a color that some people on the internet don't care for it all that much because it's quote unquote fugitive and whatnot. I don't know. I like the color. I use a lot of it in watercolor paintings. I guess it might not last forever, but it doesn't bother me that much because nothing lasts forever. But it lasts long enough, I think. Okay, let's see how things look. Alright, let's add just one more touch of white to this, and then I think we'll be ready. Because I think we got a color that's going to work for the background. Okay. Let's add it, guys. Alright, here we go. Oh boy, that's much too dark. I don't like that at all. What's going on? I don't know, man, but that was not the primetime debut for that color that I was looking for. It's probably just a case of the color next to it being a little too wet. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Color's just a little too wet here. We might need to give this a little bit of a break before we start painting it again. That's okay. That's okay. We've actually done more than I might be willing to admit. We've done actually quite a bit today, so I guess I can't be mad about having to take a brief aside and let the paint dry a little bit. Sometimes you just gotta let the paint breathe, you gotta let the paint do its thing, you gotta let the paint just exist instead of trying to assert yourself all the time. But we are getting to the point where we're gonna have to start exercising some perspective skills. It was bound to happen sooner or later, right? Yeah, it was. That's okay. No, that's okay. I can deal with that. Here, let's, oof. See what I mean about getting a little too much brown in things? Yeah, I don't know about that, guys. Okay. Alright, we want to take it easy with the grid over there, because we're going to wind up painting over our entire grid, and we don't necessarily want to do that. Maybe for right now, let's just kind of focus on getting maybe a couple more dark colors laid in real quick before we give this painting a chance to just dry off a bit, exist a little bit. I'm getting paint all over my hands today. Oh, it's one of those days, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay. Alright, I'm going to take a little alizarin crimson, a little cadmium yellow, and I guess a little bit of Prussian blue. There it is. I was wondering when we were going to see Prussian blue, and here is the culprit. Here is our favorite color. And Prussian blue is too useful not to show up every now and then. Well, Prussian blue is very useful for a lot of things. It's very useful for high intensity blues, greenish blues that is. It's very good for more transparent darks and whatnot. Come to think of it, I probably am making this a lot harder on myself than I need to. I could probably just maybe I am making this a lot harder on myself than I need to. I think we could probably just use a little bit of cadmium red light. Is any of it still wet? I don't know if any of it's still wet. This might be mostly dried paint, guys. Uh-oh. Yeah, I might need a little bit more of that color. Here, I think I might have a little something. Okay. Okay, we've got the color in here. Can always add a little bit more of it. There it is. Thought I lost it for a second. No. We're not. Ooh, boy. That is tightly shut. Okay. Boy. Alright. It's going to be one of those days. Okay, I got it open. Oh, sometimes these tubes don't want to open up, guys. You gotta be careful not to get paint on the rim of the tube if you can help it. The threads of the tube, because if that happens, whoo, that's going to be fun to get open. Alright, so I'm adding a little bit of cadmium red light, a dab of Prussian blue, which is still very, very powerful, by the way. A little too powerful for its own good. Okay, I'm just going to... Prussian blue in this line of paint is so overbearing. I'm telling you guys, it's ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, I like Prussian blue, but man. Alright, now we're finally getting something workable. I'm just adding little dabs of that mix that we just made previously, a couple of seconds ago at a time here, until I have just what I'm looking for. And what it should be is it should be kind of a burnt sienna type color. Now I know what you say, why don't you just use burnt sienna? We've been over this before. We've been over this. We don't just use burnt sienna. or I don't just use burnt sienna usually, because then I'm not going to have a color that feels necessarily unified. So, we do things the hard way, I guess you could say. Okay, that'll do. I mean, that won't do, but it'll get us mostly where we want to go for right now. I think I'm going to add. Just a touch of the cadmium yellow in there. Okay. I do believe got ourselves a decent brown color here. All right. Maybe we can talk turkey with this cat's fur. Such an elaborate way of making browns. One of these days I'm just going to start using earth colors again. Guess in some sense it would be a little bit easier. Alright, so the cat's body is going to go all the way up to about yay high. Ballpark. I don't know if we're going to be able to see these brush strokes right now. I don't know if we can see them on camera. Not really. Well, we can kind of see them a little bit, but I don't want to overdo it for right now. So we'll just kind of ease these strokes in. Okay. There. All right. And like I say, I'm not going to completely obliterate. I'm not going to completely obliterate the guidelines I laid out for the grid. There. That'll be good enough for right now, I think. Alright, let's clean everything off just a wee bit here. I'll use turpentine on my brush later. And let's scrape the palette, guys. Oh. These colors are going to dry pretty quickly, so we always just clean the palette off. Anytime you get out the sap green, anytime you get out the Prussian blue, you automatically have colors that just dry a little bit quicker. So the best way to prevent them from drying so fast is to pile them up off to the side so we can use them again as a mud mix. And that mud mix, it will be a big help. It doesn't seem like it's going to be all that useful right now. You see and say, what's so attractive about that? What's so great about that? Well, not everything gets to be bright. Sometimes you need a really dull violet color. Like this is an excellent mid-tone shadow at times. It's darker than you think it is. It's a middle tone value. It's about a value, I would say a value 6 or so. Because if you compare it to, say, the red, it's up there. It's not quite as dark as the blues, though, because the blues are very obviously darker. This paint does have a lot of white in it. So it's about value 5, value 6, somewhere around there. But you can always count on it to come through and neutralize some pretty light shadows. And we'll just toss it over here, guys. Boom. Ready for the next use.